Kevin, we were watching some of those CEOs and listening to what they had to say, and it sounded like they were all very grateful to the president for what he had done for their own companies. How committed will they be to speaking about the general plight of the average American worker?
Well, Vonnie, we'll have to wait and see what they say after these series of round-robin meetings that they are now going to be headed into. But, you know, I was thinking, of course, back to the campaign trail when then-candidate Trump was in Pella, Iowa, and it spoke very similarly to what we just saw now discussing manufacturing. But this is the image that the administration wants to put forward, is Donald Trump, the businessman, not the bombastic, brash reality star character, but someone who is able to bring CEOs together to begin crafting economic policy. But Bonnie, make no mistake, these CEOs differ on key policy areas, whether it's the border adjustment tax or even some key pieces of deregulatory policy. All of that is coming just days before this president travels across town to Capitol Hill and addresses a joint session of Congress.
Another one of the interesting things that he said was that a couple of countries that buy from us when it comes to military equipment, he says, I gave them the authorization, you can only buy from us. I think he meant that he gave them the ultimatum that they could only buy from the US. He said they were buying planes from other countries. So he's definitely got some things that he wants done, and he wants the backing of these CEOs for it. So what about these CEOs? I mean, some are more equal than others. Will the smaller companies get their say at the table as equally as the bigger companies?
That's what they're hoping for. Representatives today from Ford, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, as well as Campbell Soup, all a part of this crew of CEOs that are here at the White House. But Vonnie, again, as they look to begin to craft policy on a range of issues from tax reform, which this administration is hoping to release a plan sometime before the August recess, to regulatory policies on walking back parts of Dodd-Frank, they're beginning to work with the group of economic advisors who have emerged as the point people for this group of CEOs, not only here at the White House, but all throughout the country, on whom to work with. Jared Kushner getting a primetime shout out from the president himself. He was instrumental in helping to organize today's meeting, as well as people like Gary Cohn, Secretary Mnuchin, as well as others. So clearly a gathering of the minds and what the White House is spinning as a brainstorming session as this administration looks to release policy specifics on their legislative agenda items.
Kevin, how much of these recommendations are actually going to be, seen through to the end process? As you say, they're going to try and craft policies on tax, on job creation, trade, deregulation, infrastructure, all sorts of things. As you say, there's a lot of input on all these various things. How much actual input from today and from these other meetings with chief executives is actually going to lead to the end product?
Somewhat. I would suggest that what you just saw, as Vonnie had alluded to, was that these CEOs are trying to be more receptive and to present a more positive outlook with their interactions with the administration. Now, not all companies or businesses have taken that approach. I can tell you that sources that I've spoken with here in Washington in the business community have risen several concerns about the transition period, as well as the early week in this White House when CEOs would wake up to a potential tweet coming from the White House from President Trump criticizing specific companies. So now I think what you're witnessing is CEOs trying to warm up to this White House and to work with him as he again brings people together to have that seat at the table to craft policy. But whether it's environmental regulation or financial regulatory matters or tax policy, there is a lot of things for them to talk about. He specifically mentioned trade policy. Now, he also alluded to his Secretary of Defense, Rex Tillerson, who is not here today, who is visiting in Mexico, as one of the key areas in which bilateral trade agreements are going to have to emerge. He's going to need these CEOs because it is a two-way street here, particularly as they look to craft those bilateral trade agreements.